Good morning students. Today we are going to start with new geography chapter of class 9th, Physical Features of India. In this module we will learn more about features of India and how they have been formed. Major physical features of India are mountains, plains, plateaus, desert, island and coastal areas. To understand the formation of different features and landforms of India, we need to understand the geological history and processes of the earth. Geological history of the earth. The earth is thought to have been formed about 4.6 billion years ago when a cloud of dust and gas began to condense under the attraction of gravitational forces to form a solid sphere. After millions of years, the rock crust as well as the oceans and the atmosphere were formed. About 200 million years ago, there was a single landmass on Earth known as Pangaea. Now, to explain the formation of present landforms and continents, scientists propose different theories over the different period of time. Here we are going to discuss two important theories. First, the continental drift theory, and the second is plate tectonics theory. Continental drift theory. It was proposed by German scientist Alfred Wegener in 1912. According to the theory, billion years ago, all continents were joined together into one big landmass called as Pangaea. On the other hand, all the oceans joined together were called as Panthalassa. Pangaea floated over Panthalassa. In this diagram, you can see the Pangaea and the ocean surrounding the Pangaea, Panthalassa. And the second theory we have theory of plate tectonics. Developed from the 1950s through 1970s, plate tectonics is the modern version of continental drift, a theory first proposed by scientist Alfred Wegener in 1912. Wegener did not have an explanation for how the continents could move around the planet, but researchers do now. According to this theory, the crust of the earth has been formed out of 7 and some minor plates. The movement of these plates resulted in the building up stress within the plate and the continental rocks above, leading to folding, faulting and volcanic activities. The first Pangaea broke into two parts due to internal earth movement, mainly due to movement of convectional currents inside the earth. Convectional current is the magma drive of plate tectonic. Heat generated from the radioactive decay of elements deep in the interior of the earth creates magma, molten rock in the asthenosphere. Large convection current in the asthenosphere transfer heat to the surface, where the plump of less dense magma break apart the plate at the spreading centers, creating divergent plane boundaries. As the plate move away from the spreading center, they cool. The higher density basalt rock that makes up ocean crust get consumed at the ocean trenches and subduction zone, and this crust recycled back into the asthenosphere. Here in this diagram you can see how the conventional current is continuously moving inside the earth crust. Okay, and because of this movement, pressure is put on the continental crust, and the point where the pressure is there, from there the crust starts breaking and moving away from each other. The northern part, the northern part of Pangaea was known as Laurentia, and the southern part was known as Gondwana land. Tethys Sea was formed when the Pangaea first split into Laurentia and Gondwana land. It later split into smaller land masses, which eventually, after millions of years of drift, formed the continents we know today. Here in this diagram, you can see that how the different landforms were formed over the period of time. In the beginning, there was Pangaea. Pangaea started breaking into two, Laurentia and Gondwana land, and then these two land masses further broke apart into the present day continents. After the study of various sources like earthquake, volcanic eruptions, etc., geologists concluded that Earth is not made up of uniform material. It is made up of three main layers in the form of concentric shears: the crust, mantle, and the core. Our Earth is a playfield of two opposing forces: the endogenic forces or internal forces, which operates from inside the Earth and make the surface uneven, while exogenic forces or external forces, which operate from outside and destroy the raised portion and try to level them down. The different landforms which we see on the Earth's surface are the result of different endogenic internal as well as exogenic external forces. Now in this flow chart you can see that on the Earth's surface two type of forces operate: endogenic forces from the inside. They are of two types: sudden forces like earthquake, volcano, and landslide, and the slow one are tectonic or plate movements, okay, like mountain building forces. Exogenic forces, they operate on the surface of the earth, which are responsible for the formation of different type of landforms. Weathering and erosion are some of the forces. Now let's see how internal forces work. We have already discussed that the earth crust is fractured into several rock plates that floats like iceberg or raft on the upper mantle. These plates are in constant motion and each plate may have continent and ocean basins at top. The shape and continent have evolved and changed over millions of years due to crustal movement, and change on the earth's surface occurs as a result of internal movements. Okay, now plate boundaries. Where two tectonic plates meet, they form a plate boundary. Most of the Earth's volcanic activity, earthquake, and mountain building activities take place along the plate boundaries defined on the basis of their movements. So this margin between the two plates is known as plate boundaries. Okay, now between the plates, three different type of movements are possible. The number one is convergent boundaries. When two plates move towards each other, they may collide or crumble, or one may slide under the other, is called convergent boundary. Okay, this is how they fly. Okay. Now, such movements between the plate result in the formation of four mountains. For example, Himalaya. In this diagram, you can see that how a small plate is colliding with much larger Eurasian plate, and it resulted in the formation of mountains. The second type of movement is divergent plate boundaries. Divergent boundaries form when two plates move apart from each other, causing tension in the crust, then cracking and creating wide gaps or rifts. So when two plates move away from each other, it's called divergent plate boundaries. Some movement between the plate result in the formation of faults or rift between the plates. For example, mid-Atlantic ridge. In this diagram, you can see, okay, the two plates are moving away from each other and how the magma is rushing up to fill the gap. Okay, when the magma cools down, it forms a new floor, and that also we call new floor spreading. New seafloor spreading. Okay, then we have a third type of movement, that is transform boundaries. Okay, some plates do not converge or diverge. These are called conservative or transform plates. They pass each other without creating or destroying old crust. Okay, in this diagram you can see how these two plates are simply passing each other. Okay, such movements between the plates sometimes result in the earthquakes. Okay, tectonic plates are constantly moving and sliding over the mantle very slowly. We do not feel them except when they manifest themselves as an earthquake, tremor, or volcanic activity. In this diagram, the red arrows are showing the transform boundaries, and this yellow one, okay, in the Atlantic Ocean, showing the divergent plate boundaries, and near the near India where Himalayas are, these white arrows are showing convergent boundaries. Okay, now let's have a quick look on external forces. So the surface of the earth is made up of different type of rocks. Some are very hard like marble and some are very soft like soapstone, which is used in making talcum powder. The color of soil also varies from one place to another because soil is formed out of different type of rocks. Most of the variation in landforms on the earth's surface are also caused due to the variation in rock formations. India is a large landmass formed during different geological period that which we have already discussed, which has influenced her relief. Besides geological formation, a number of processes such as weathering, erosion and deposition have created and modified the relief to its present form, that is mountain, plains and plateaus. Now some definitions. Denudation. The process of wearing away of rocks and leveling them is called denudation. Weathering. It is the disintegration and decay of rock on the surface by chemical mechanical activities, and transportation of rock is only possible after weathering. Temperature, rainfall, frost, water, vegetation, animal and man help in this process of weathering. Here you can see one diagram that how in the mountainous areas where temperature is very low, water is responsible for the disintegration of the rocks. The process is very simple. During the daytime, when the sun rises, water melts and it moves inside the rocks where cracks are there. In the night, when water freezes, it exerts pressure on the wall of the rocks, and as the process continues over the period of time, the rocks become very weak and ultimately disintegrate or split into two rock pieces. Now erosion is the action of the surface process such as water flow or wind that removes soil, rocks or dissolved material from one location on the earth's surface and then transport it to another location. Okay, this natural process is caused by dynamic activities of erosive agent, that is water, ice, glaciers, snow, air, wind, plants, animals and human beings. Now let's conclude. So due to two opposing forces, the endogenic forces which operates from inside and exogenic forces which operates from outside the earth, okay, we see the different landforms on the surface of the earth, and India's landforms are actually the results of these two forces which operates on the earth's surface. So with this, the introduction of the chapter is over. In the next module, we will individually discuss the formation of mountains, plains and plateaus and the other landforms in India. Thank you. And the last concluding point is, always remember, earth is not what it was yesterday, and nor will it be the same tomorrow. Okay? Earth is not what it was yesterday, nor will it be the same tomorrow. Thank you.